Isaac, will you do roll call, please?
Yes. Doug Benschoter.
Here.
Mary French.
Here.
Rich Dane.
Here.
Stephanie Garner.
Here.
David Huser.
Here.
David Larson.
Here.
Kate Payne.
Here.
Kathy Olson.
Here.
Heidi Solheim.
Here.
Okay, the next item would be the approval of the agenda from the last meeting on August 5th.
Move approval?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Then we'll do the approval of the minutes for the July 1, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We have a motion.
Move approval?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, well, have Isaac explain a little, open the public hearing and have Isaac explain the first issue, the rezoning request for 2203 East Bremer Avenue and parcel ID. It's listed there on the paper. Not gonna read it.
Alrighty, so this applicant is Steve Baker on behalf of Baker Enterprises. They are asking to rezone their two properties out on 2203 East Bremer. So it's 2203 East Bremer Avenue and then parcel 0901426006. That's just the parcel directly behind it. They are asking to rezone it to industrial. So currently the 2203 East Bremer is zoned as C2 commercial, and then the back parcel is zoned as A1 agricultural. Our understanding is that it was being used for this use when it was brought into the city and just never rezoned. So they're looking to rezone it to just update it to the current use of the property. Our future land use map does show those two properties as being industrial, along with Hannawalt properties, and then there's one that's a mixed use between commercial and industrial, but we've got industrial uses on the future land use map out in that area. We did send out public hearing notices, and we did not receive any comments from the public. Staff's recommendation is to approve the rezoning request.
Okay, so since it's a public hearing, if there's anyone that would like to speak, please state your name and your address.
I'm Harlan Taylor with Kroll Ready Mix at 215 Madison Street in Sumner. And I didn't think I'd be here again because I think last time I met with you people it was through a Zoom meeting. And we were well into that process of when we rezoned that property of Crumweedy's up on the northwest corner of town here. And Steve Baker called me after we was at the second reading or someplace in there, second reading with the council approval, and Steve Baker called and he says, "Hey, I want to sell my property and buy a different one here. Are you interested in mine?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'd like to look at it. I'd like to talk to you about it." And so we spent a little time together, and he says, "We're crushing here now," and he said, "I'd like to buy something else, and I'd like you people to see if you're interested." So I says, "Yeah, we're interested." Couple of things that I'd have advantage for us that are a big deal. I knew at the Crumweedy property I wouldn't have any water. I'd have to drill my own well or sewer. But another few other items that came into it was the gas and the electric. And they want big dollars to bring gas up there and electric. And Baker's property is hard surface here, and there's good access with the Cedar Valley Parkway Road, and it just makes a lot of sense. There's enough room. They got plenty of room back there. It makes a lot of sense just for us to continue to look at this property, and if we can get it zoned, make a deal up and buy this property. And so that's, we were talking with Steve, that's our intent. So that's kind of why that's why I'm back here again. It's going to be basically the same operation that we were going to do at Crumweedy's there, but it's just at this location. Would have the ready mix plant and the similar to what we got downtown there, only it'd be a nice modern plant. It's a nice looking plant. And I do have some pictures here of some of our other plants we build. We kind of got a model and we follow that through wherever we go. If you want to see them, I'd be glad to show them to you.
So, can I ask a question? Is it the appropriate time?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, what I hear you saying, you have no opposition to this rezoning, but you're just informing us that you're working with Bakers on purchase?
I'm just working with Bakers, and if he can get it rezoned, we're going to purchase it.
Okay.
It's all pending zoning and permitting.
Okay.
And then we would purchase it, and I wouldn't do anything at the Crumweedy property. That would be the intent. Because he's got the shops there, and we can make use of them. The buildings he got there, but we can use them. So it'd be less building for us. All we'd be building is basically the plant, and the other stuff is there, and it's conducive to what we do.
So to be clear for everyone, you're in support of rezoning it to the heavy
Oh,
industrial?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think Steve Baker's not here, but his nephew Blake is here, so he says, I don't know what you guys want to do there. I said, I can explain what I want to do here, kind of what we've planned at the other place. And I got a couple of pictures of some of our other plants. We've kind of went with this model for quite a number of years now. How do you turn that?
Should be on. And then if you,
Lens cap?
you guys should have boxes. If you just switch it to B, you should be able to see what he's presenting on there. No?
Make it work.
Lens cap, Isaac. Lens cap?
Oh. I see that at another meeting before.
How about now? Perfect.
Yeah.
That's our plant in Mason City. Here we'd have the plant and a dispatch area, but the shop, we wouldn't be building a shop with this because Bakers have the shop, existing shop there. And that plant's probably been there 8 or 9 years now. And here's another picture of a New Hampton plant. It's a little smaller with the truck shop, but
And where is this located?
this plant here is New Hampton,
Yeah.
and this one is in Mason City. So we finished this plant a couple of years ago, and it'd be very similar to that. Yeah, I'm open to any questions or
Anybody have any
comments.
other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I think I've had several people contact me they're very much in favor of to get it out of the residential area and get it out into the more, and I guess you'd say out on close to the highway, and instead of having everything going down through the residential area. So I've had several people contact me, so I'm just passed that on. They're very supportive of several community members. So
When before I started basically this spring, I talked to the Isaac and some of the people, your staff, and they says that would probably, the Crumweedy property would be an option. And he says, we really don't have anything else. The only other option we'd have is behind Baker's in that field back there. He says, for what you want to do, that's about the only two options you're going to have. And so if I would have had the idea that Baker was ready to move and do something else, I probably would have started there, but I didn't know it at that time.
So technically speaking, I mean, I appreciate your forthrightness, and this is what we're planning to do, and I appreciate that a lot, but it shouldn't really influence our decision, should it? Wouldn't this be zoned appropriately? And it's nice to know that might be the plan moving forward, but that doesn't necessarily influence whether it is appropriately rezoned. Is that correct or not?
I would agree with you, because the sale may not go through, but it just seems appropriate that that be zoned.
Okay.
I've got to have it zoned, otherwise I'm out.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, I
Okay.
understand that totally.
Well, and right now it's non-conforming,
Okay, yeah,
so if this were to go through,
Mhm.
then it would be conforming.
yep.
One question I would ask, sir, what's the intended exterior material going to be?
Of the building?
Yes.
It'll be a steel building. Like the picture shows.
That's steel?
Red iron with steel outside.
Is there anyone else that's going to speak?
And it'll sit back in the lot a ways. I mean, it's not going to be by the road, it's going to sit back in the lot, is where, there's basically two parcels there, the way I see it. And the first parcel has got the office and their shops in there. And then the part to the back is where we'd have the plant, where they do their recycling. The recycling would be back there, probably be further back than what it is now. And our plant would be in that recycle area there.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak from the public? Okay. So then I think we close the public hearing. And need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend the rezoning request of 2203 East Bremer Avenue and parcel ID 69014260006 to M2 Heavy Industrial to City Council.
I second it.
Okay.
Just to
Any
clarify,
discussion?
you motion to approve, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Isaac, can you tell us what the definition or expectations are of an M2?
Yeah, so into, it's essentially a catch-all of what's not allowed in M1, and M1 is commercial, anything that's allowed in commercial minus the residential, and then it has a couple of other, I'm going to define them as residential, or excuse me, as industrial. So an M2 is going to be M1 plus factories, mining, crushing, which is what they would be doing on this property. Those types of activities. Generally, M2 requires a little bit more buffer area between them and other zones. So actually, how they are positioned right now, there's about 600 feet of agricultural between their operations and the next residential, and then they're buffered by other properties between their residential that's along Bremer Avenue. So they're actually meeting that buffer requirements. They have a little bit bigger setback requirements than M1, which is 50 feet, but again, they're set back pretty far from Bremer. This property, it's been operating as industrial for a lot of years, and it's actually been meeting a lot of the industrial regulations. It just hasn't been zoned as industrial. So,
What's on that skinny lot to the north of it?
What's the old railroad?
yeah.
I figured it was a railroad run, but is it privately owned by?
Yep, it's privately owned, and yeah, my understanding is that it's old railroad right away. And then there's nothing on it to my knowledge right now.
Well, it would bring, the recommended approval would bring it into compliance with the future land use, where we're showing that as industrial.
And I think it's worth noting that the future land use map has it identified as industrial, as well, M2 heavy industrial.
Isaac, can you also tell me, a couple of years ago when we were discussing planning behind the high school, or actually what would be now the middle school, there was discussion at that time that any new commercial building had to meet certain standards, of which steel buildings were not one under consideration at that time. Did we pass anything?
Not to my knowledge. As far as I know, we don't have any requirements for certain standards for industrial outside of what the building code would require. And our department doesn't specifically enforce building code. We contract that out to Bremer County. So anything that they build, they'd be required to, obviously meet I believe we have 2018 adopted. So not to my knowledge that we've adopted anything like that. But I don't recall the conversation that you're talking about, so I'm afraid it may have happened before I was here.
It
So
may have. Do you recall? Because we were talking about,
I think we were talking about it in the context of 4th Street Southwest. Because there was a conversation about storage buildings and another kind of plant being kind of one row back from what's along 4th.
well, I know the discussion had then extended to behind the middle school out there. But
But that's a commercial area, isn't it, not industrial?
I don't know if we separated the two. I'm asking, I'm not saying we did anything. I just remember having discussion regarding it, and I personally am not one in support of requirements about you have to look this way or that way. But if we approve something, I owe it to us to bring it up and make sure we're aware of it. But if we didn't
But
approve
we're
it,
only approving the
M2.
M2, not the building itself, right? I mean,
Correct.
other than the gentleman needs to know if there was a problem out there with the plan.
does he have to go through additional review processes?
If he wants to build anything, he'll just need to submit a building permit and go through that process. We'll enforce setback requirements, height requirements, those types of things. So if there is something, I can certainly look into it and make sure that if he builds something on that property, whether it be Kroll, Baker, whoever owns the property, I can make sure that that's looked into, and if there is anything, we enforce that.
I call a question.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item?
Thank you.
Good luck, we're happy
Isaac,
to
have you
have you.
given them the timeline and everything?
I'm
sorry.
Have you given them the timeline so they know when the
Yep.
next steps are?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Isaac, tell us a little bit about, so the public meeting is still, now we'll open it up again?
Yep, correct.
And you can tell us about item number 2, request for special provisional use at 117 Flintstone Drive.
All right, so 117 Flintstone Drive, they are requesting a special provisional use to install a roof-mounted solar system on their house. It'll be on the south side of their house. We do have code that says that you can't put roof-mounted solar systems facing the side of the house that butts a right-of-way. So they're on the right side of the house. Moxie Solar is the ones that actually filled out the application, so they're applying for the special provisional use on behalf of the property owner. They've done a couple other roof-mounted solar systems in the community. So they are at least 4 feet 3 inches from the edge of the roof at all times. We do have requirements that they can't hang over the sides of the roof. They can't project more than 10 inches from the roof, and this proposed solar system will be projecting 6 inches off from the roof. So they're meeting the requirements that we have in our code. We sent out the public hearing notices. We have not heard anything from the public. Staff's recommendation is to recommend approval.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak regarding this? Okay. We'll close the public meeting and look for a motion.
I move the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the special provisional use request for 117 Flintstone Drive to install a roof-mounted solar system to the Board of Adjustment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just have one question. Is our, we kind of went down this road and we kind of set those, as far as our code, and had quite a bit of discussion, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, I don't even know when it was. Is those, what we put into our code, pretty common throughout the state, or has there been any changes? At that time, we kind of looked at a number of communities. Are we still pretty much along lines, or have they gotten more lenient or more restrictive? I just don't, I was just curious because that was one of the questions that came up when we first dealt with this. I don't even remember when it was, but it's been probably 5, 6, maybe more than that, 8 years ago.
I think it's a few more, because I think it was one of the first things when I got on.
Okay, 10 years ago?
Yeah, about 10.
I don't remember. I've been on here so long, I can't even remember for sure when things are, but I just wondered if we're still kind of where we should be there, or if it's something we need to readdress with the commission, to
I was
deal
also
with.
surprised to hear that you said that they had to be not facing the right-of-way,
Yes.
because didn't we approve one up on Roundhorn, and it is facing the,
I don't believe so. I'd have to check.
pretty sure we did.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's.
I remember that one.
Yeah,
The one on Round Four has one section that does face Round Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't remember discussing that particular item when we
Yeah.
did that. And I don't know that, it doesn't affect this one, obviously, but,
Mhm.
So just curious, just from being fairly new to this too, but what makes this come across this committee's approval phase?
So my understanding was that when this was first put into the code, it was geared more towards your larger panels that you'll see outlet like CUNA, or the larger types, and then it just kind of got all bunched into if it's a solar system of any type, then it has to go through to make sure that it conforms with the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah, it was part of a larger one, because they were dealing with windmills, the little smaller windmills that people were thinking about putting up in yards and stuff, and so it was kind of a general encompassing all of these alternative energy producing.
Okay.
And so the concerns were, yeah, some of these, at the time, the solar panels were a lot bigger, and would they be mounted in the yard, or do they have to be roof mounted and things like that? So those are considerations that were put in.
Well, so to your point, Dave, this might be something that we need to review in terms of how is it written in the code right now?
Well, I just think we ought to go back because I think it's going to come at us more
Yep,
now.
I agree.
In the future, especially there's several salespeople locally that are out there promoting this, and then this one here, it's not facing the street, but it's facing the public golf course, or a golf course too. So it is going to be. It's not like it's really hidden either.
Well, kind of, but there is kind of an open space behind this. I drove by it, and it looks as if there is I would call it a not landscaped area
What's a
behind it.
normal area, so but I just think that's something that needs to, we may want to just address the whole code again,
Yep,
just to
I think
make
that's a
sure
good
that
idea.
It's going to come before us, and just like Kate said, that one off at Roundhorn, I don't recall it coming, to the commission.
no, I do.
Did it come? I don't.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, and it's kind of on the curve.
Okay, is that what it was? I can't remember.
The city code has got a pretty elaborate discussion and or requirement section about putting in photovoltaics. It's pretty
I just want to make sure we are always stay on top of it, you know.
In Cedar Falls, they must have much looser arrangements, because if you go on a Hudson Road, kind of past or by you and I there, before you and I, you see the neighborhood and there's multiple houses that have them on their roads.
No, I'm not opposed to them, I just think we just want to make sure that it's, we don't want to get into a heated situation sometime down the road.
How do they hold up to golf balls?
What's that?
How do they hold up to golf balls?
Well, the golfer who hits a ball
Yeah.
there shouldn't be playing on the golf course.
Isaac,
We talked about that.
Isaac, you mentioned there were no, public.
When we have the CUNY presentation, is how much impact it can take there.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I would say pretty.
Well, they're durable, we don't have, we take pretty good size hail, so it's, but I just thought it's something we want to just keep in mind. I don't want to get into something down the road that.
Yeah, and we can look into that, make sure.
Yeah, like I said, I think some of the original, when we first talked about it years ago, Dave, was because of the size of the panels and things like that. And now they're getting smaller and
Yep.
more efficient and as far as that goes, so it could be something to
I just want to make sure we're always staying on top of it, you know. It's better to address it before it becomes an issue somewhere along the line.
That's the planning side of that.
That's right.
Isaac,
Yes.
you mentioned you hadn't gotten any response from any of the residential around it. I'm assuming that Centennial Oaks also got a letter? And are you saying they got you have no response from them?
They're not on the
50
list.
feet.
It's right there.
Centennial Oaks, you mean the golf course?
Links.
Prairie
Yeah.
Links? Yeah, yes, they would have received a letter from us, and we did not receive anything from them.
Okay.
They don't appear on the list, do they?
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Now we go to regular business. Plat of survey for parcel G. Isaac, would you tell us a little bit about this, please?
Yes, so this parcel is directly behind the mini storage and the new wedding venue that's off of the 4-lane. So this is outside the city limits, but it's within the 2-mile radius, so we're required to review it. Essentially, they want to create the parcel G, and then the plan is for the owner, Mr. Kreiner, Ron Kreiner, is going to sell it to the owners of the mini storage, and then they are looking to expand onto this property. My understanding is that it's already gone through the county to have this parcel rezoned to commercial. So from that aspect, that's set up. So they just need to carve off the piece that they want to sell. So that's what they're proposing to do here.
Okay, so we have a motion?
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah.
So what's the future land use look like south of town in that area?
I don't believe,
Wouldn't have gone out that far.
yeah, I don't believe it would have gone out that far. Yeah, it just shows as county. So it wouldn't have gone out. Potential annexation area.
Oh,
So,
potential annex, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's right here.
Pretty far out.
It's just interesting
Yeah,
that
it's right there. So it's, okay, it's just in that
the argument about
buffer area. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
agricultural use and the alternative.
So, and then explain to again, the plat of survey. What does that mean necessarily?
Yes, so if you look at the aerial map, I've got the one parcel highlighted. So essentially, they are going to, from the mini storage parcel, about...
Replat it?
Yeah, they're about 125 feet north of that south parcel of the mini storage. They're going to go straight across to the water feature, and then they're just going to kind of follow the water feature north and west, and then cut across, and then kind of just connect it. So that's the parcel that they're looking to carve out of. They'll be carving it out of the section that, the property that I've got highlighted on the aerial map, and then a little bit of the property directly north of the highlighted parcel. So actually, the north property line of where the wedding venue is, if you take that straight across, that's essentially going to be the north property line of this proposed parcel G. So they're just cutting that off, and then, like I said, the plan is to sell it to the Mini Storage Incorporated for future development.
Just something for your, Prairie Links is not on that recipient list.
It isn't.
No, and there's some of those that are on the list under this.
Some of them are, the bottom ones I know are from the other ones, so.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's what I was going to say, that those should have been up on this other recipient list, but up here on the top part, Prairie Links is not on there.
No.
Okay.
So,
I will we'll reach out to them because we have contact information for them and make sure that they're aware. Okay.
Do we need to table that then if it's, they haven't had
Well, I'd say,
notification?
well, the problem is if they would have some, then they'd have to come back again. So I don't know. I doubt if they were going to say anything, but
Yeah, I wouldn't think that they would.
I just, I don't want it to become an issue someday down the road that they weren't notified,
Is it for sure beyond the 250 feet?
Rather right next door.
It's right there.
So it's not showing up, so what we do for these, we select the property that the special provisional use is being placed on, and then we go 250 feet. We have just a system on Beacon that does that, and it highlights and gives us the addresses. So for whatever reason, it's not popping up as Prairie Links has an address. So I'll go back and I'll check, because we may have caught that and just written it on, so it wouldn't have come up as a sticker. Because we do go back and we review them and make sure, because we have the same problem sometimes with some of the school districts and some of the county and city properties that for whatever reason it doesn't pop up with an address. So I'll go back and I'll make sure that they were notified.
Okay. And what's the distance again?
State law requires 200 feet and our code requires 250.
Just outside the Huser range.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must be just, but I think I'm about 300 feet.
Okay. All right, back to plat of survey for parcel G. So just basically replatting it.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the plat of survey for parcel G to the City Council.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Isaac, in the past, we really aren't approving anything because it's up to the county. It's just basically okay, no problem, and we don't report this to the city council, I don't think.
Nope. No, this does go to the city council, but ultimately they have the final say on whether or not this goes through. So essentially the city council is saying, yes, we are fine with this, or no, we don't think this should go through. And then the council, or the county will treat that more of like a recommendation or so.
Yeah, we're not changing the zoning, we're just letting them replat that.
Correct.
Just redraw the lines of the property.
Correct.
It's just an agreement. Is it still 12B, or what is it?
I don't remember what the,
Actual thing, the agreement we have
yeah.
with the county. Is it 12B? I don't remember.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to old business.
I have one piece of old business. It's in regards to the comprehensive land use plan. We officially sent out the RFPs to, I believe, 13 firms, and then we're going to post it on a couple of different sites. So we are looking to grab 2 to 3 volunteers from this commission to sit on the steering committee. steering committee would review the RFPs received from various firms, and then narrow it down to the one that we recommend to city council. The timeline right now, we are looking at the 24th of August is the deadline that they must get it in by. And then we are going to review and set up interviews with the hopes, 24th. And then we're hoping to give a recommendation to city council on the 20th of September. So it's kind of a fast timeline. We're hoping to get this going and get it started this calendar year. So,
Question, do you know what time of day those interviews would be typically during the working hours of city?
I would likely they're going to be, but if it's something where we can work out with everybody to be during the evening and works for the firms as well, we'd certainly explore that.
So you're looking for volunteers?
Correct.
From us?
Correct.
You can put my name in that.
And this is to help in developing a short list and then sit in for the interviews?
Correct.
I would volunteer. Be pretty flexible on schedule too, so.
How many do you need, Isaac?
We're asked for 2 to 3.
Well, if you can get by with 2, great. If you need a third, I'll offer up.
Okay. I will put your name down. And that's all I had for old business.
Okay.
This one we did the first one with, Ames or Des Moines, are they being considered again, or?
I believe so, yes.
Where are they out of, Des Moines? Des Moines or Ames, I can't remember what they are.
Yeah.
McClure.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yes, we have them, and then we have a couple of others. Basically, we researched a bunch of firms in Iowa and around Iowa, and we sent them to them, and then we were posting them on different sites for any that we missed. So.
Okay. Any new business?
There's 2, McClure and another one, and then,
I know Intercog's
from
done
Intercog,
the last 2, maybe.
2 or 3. There was another, McClure did the first one, and then the one after McClure, I can't think who they were, then it's been Intercog with, I can't think of his name right now.
Just another quick question on that. Do you guys typically use like a decision analysis process or a tool or?
We have what we're going to be grading them on. I'll send that to you.
Okay, just curious.
Yep.
New business?
Yep, I've got one more piece of new business. So, at the study session in July, the city council talked about UTVs and ATVs and whether or not they're going to be allowed in city limits. So there's talk about putting together a task force. And again, we were asked to collect volunteers if that task force is put together. Again, 2 to 3 volunteers from this commission. So if anybody would like to volunteer to sit on a potential task force to discuss whether or not UTVs and ATVs will be allowed inside city limits.
We're talking the micro-mobility also?
Yes, and micromobility, thank you.
So the electric scooters.
Mary?
Do you have
Mary?
a time frame?
I don't have a time frame. If you'd like, I can do more research and I can come back to this. I don't know how fast council wants to move on it.
It's kind of the mayor's call to put the commission in. That was, my suggestion was kind of combining planning and zoning, leisure services, economic development a little bit in there, as well as council to kind of discuss what do we want, what do we feel is needed.
We've got one volunteer. Any others?
No one wants to
I'll be a
join.
tentative, but,
Okay.
yeah, if it's not as quick as the other one.
And as soon as I get more information about it as well, I can send it out. And if we need to have somebody different or somebody needs to drop out, that's fine. So we can address that when we get to it. But I just wanted to put together some volunteers so I know who to communicate and relay information on to, so.
Good idea to do it well, so we don't keep going back to it like Waverly was doing.
Yeah.
I think that's it for tonight. Any,
Just one comment, this is probably my own error, but I did not catch the fact that Hank was going to be recognized at the council meeting. And so from my own personal experience and with Hank on the Planning and Zoning Board, I say congratulations, and indeed, it was a job well done.
Absolutely.
I'll second that.
So I have one more comment, and if I would have just looked down when I was talking, I would have been able to give you the right date. But the comp plan is due August 31, not August 24th. So it's still a Tuesday, it's just 1 week later, so.
This goes back to old business. I don't want to string out the meeting, but have we done anything more on the sign ordinance? You know, some of these that are still out there, or?
The sign that you brought to my attention has been removed. But as far as that, we're still looking at the zoning ordinance in its entirety, so.
Yeah, there was about 5 or 6 that I think we talked about.
Dave, what sign was that?
Oh, well, there was 5 or 6 that have been up for way more than, they're supposed to be taken down after the business is out of business. Within 60 days, I think the ordinance is, and there's 5 or 6 of them that's been out there. It was brought to my attention by a couple local people, so. One of them, which is set on the original sign ordinance committee back 20 years ago or whenever it was.
Oops.
So once a business closes, you know, they're supposed to be taken down 60 days, I think it is.
Not just spray painted black.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting be adjourned.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, Isaac, for dealing with that.
Yep.